Bend and Scoop is brought to you by Harder Concepts, the best bars in North Dallas. Eat, drink, party harder.
I love Bend and Scoop, man.
You want to hear some music? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Well, today you're going to get all the music you want.
The request lines are now open. KGFJ Soul Radio.
Do it now, man.
Request lines are up.
It's open, man.
Got any Blue Oyster Cult?
No, I don't have any Blue Oyster Cult. I ate 34 pairs last time around. Where were you? I was that close to working at 7-Eleven, you know.
Pass the word along. Tell the men it's time to shoot the moon.
Shoot the moon!
Out there on the microphone. On the microphone.
Shoot the moon. Shoot the moon.
The attitude dictates that you don't care whether she comes, stays, lays, or prays. I mean, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping.
Hey, Strawberry! Oh, Strawberry. Hey, what's happening, man? How you doing? This is my friend.
Hey, how you doing, man?
What you looking at, man?
Oh, nothing. I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at his neck, man.
Can you honestly tell me that you forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
Kid stuff. Well, how about the tunes? I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Build your muscles picking strawberries. You know, Bend and Scoop.
Maybe I could get you a job with United Fruit. I got a buddy with United Fruit.
Start with strawberries, you might work your way up to these goddamn bananas. When, boy, are you gonna get your act together?
We're creating a society of cell phone crazed, marijuana smoking zombies.
Coming to you not quite live from Lukewarm Tallboy Studios deep in the land of Gar, this is Bend and Scoop, the podcast featuring music, mirth, and minutia, focused on exposing artists you probably haven't heard, but should. I'm Bob, and I'll be your tour guide on this amazingly asymmetric auditory adventure as we journey to the center of your cochlea. Welcome to episode 67. Bend and Scoop is brought to you by Harder Concepts, the best bars in North Dallas. Visit one of the 5 great Harder Concepts locations in DFW, which includes Scruffy Duffy's and Ringo's Pub, both at the shops at Legacy and Plano, Saintsbury Tavern at Austin Ranch and the Colony, the Mucky Duck at Addison Circle in Addison, and Addison Ice House at Vitruvian Park in Addison. All 5 Harder Concepts locations have great food, live music, an amazing beer and spirit selection, and a wait staff that's second to none. Whether you want to hang out with old friends or meet some new ones, there's no better place to get together and watch your favorite sports or hear some awesome tunes. Eat, drink, party harder. Joining us at the end of the show to play a round of Is That Your Vinyl Answer in the Groovin' After Party will be our special guests Holly Cantos and Dave Sloan from the What Difference Does It Make podcast. We spread the gospel of vinyl here at Bend and Scoop, so be sure to tell us all about your favorite neighborhood record store by posting to @BendScoop on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtag SpinMomandPop. Our record store of the week is Twist and Shout in Denver. You can follow them on Twitter at TwistDenver, on both Instagram and Facebook at Twist and Shout Denver, and you can check out their website at twistandshout.com. Kicking things off is a band from Halifax, Nova Scotia called Outta Controller. This is from their 2020 album Sure Thing called Nothing Comes From Nothing.
Don't forget all those late nights.
That was Philadelphia's The Smart Hearts. Off their 2019 album On the Line, that was Let Us In. Have you ever wanted to host a podcast? Well, all you have to do to join the Mike Hunt and host your very own episode of Assume the Juxtaposition is send me your topic idea to lukewarmtallboy@gmail.com. You can follow Assume the Juxtaposition on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at AssumeTJPod. From Melbourne, Australia, here's Primo from their 2020 album Sonyi. This is Best and Fairest.
What makes a life a rich one? What would you do? Leave behind? What company will you be keeping? Who will you pay? And who will pay you? The best, the fairest. The best, the fairest. The best, the fairest. The best, the fairest. I left home at 17. I didn't know I was leaving motherhood and other dreams slowly come out of hiding. The best, the best, the fairest. The best, the best, the fairest. The best, the best, the fairest. The best, the best, the fairest.
The battle of wits has begun. It ends when you decide and we both drink and find out who is right and who is dead.
But it's so simple. All I have to do is divine from what I know of you. Are you the sort of man who would put the poison into his own goblet or his enemy's? Now, a clever man would put the poison into his own goblet because he would know that only a great fool would reach for what he was given. I'm not a great fool, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. But you must have known I was not a great fool. You would have counted on it, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
You've made your decision then?
Not remotely, because iocane comes from Australia, as everyone knows. And Australia is entirely peopled with criminals. And criminals are used to having people not trust them, as you are not trusted by me, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Wait till I get going! Where was I?
Australia.
Yes, Australia. And you must have suspected I would have known the powder's origin, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
You're just stalling now.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you? You've beaten my giant, which means you're exceptionally strong. So you could have put the poison in your own goblet, trusting on your strength to save you, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. But you've also bested my Spaniard. which means you must have studied. And in studying, you must have learned that man is mortal. So you would have put the poison as far from yourself as possible, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
You're trying to trick me into giving away something. It won't work.
It has worked. You've given everything away. I know where the poison is.
Then make your choice.
I will. And I choose. What in the world can that be?
What? Where? I don't see anything.
Oh, well, I could have sworn I saw something. No matter.
What's so funny?
I'll tell you in a minute. First, let's drink. Me from my glass, and you from yours.
You guessed wrong.
You only think I guessed wrong. That's what's so funny. I switched glasses when your back was turned. Ha ha, you fool. You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known is this. Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
Please don't stay, 'cause you'll bring me down again, yeah. Please don't stay, 'cause you'll bring me down, yeah. With different strokes, for different folks, I know, and I'm not afraid, so please just go away.
From Madison, Wisconsin, off their 2021 album At Home With, that was Proud Parents with Don't Stay. How Many is a podcast where I get together with my friends Jesse, Junior, Gary, and Scott to debate a variety of pop culture topics, including movies, sports, TV, music, and more. You can follow How Many on Twitter at How Many Podcast and listen at howmanypodcast.com. Here's Nashville's Styrofoam Winos from their self-titled 2021 record. This is Skyline Top Removal.
The bubble bath in the Airbnb. Construction workers suddenly in the tub with me. Watch the skyline adjust to post-modernity. Can you scratch my back? I don't think that I can reach. circling, back scratcher circling, back scratcher circling. I see you running around here with your watering can, but I will play you a hand in the promised land. Skyline top removal, swapping the domes and the towers. Skyline top approval, mix and matching the power. Didn't ask that anybody understand, but I will play your hand in the promised land. Will you come over to my house and play? I want to tell you all about my space. It was built on the backs of the underpaid. But isn't it minimal? Isn't it great? Isn't it minimal? Isn't it great? Isn't it minimal? Isn't it great? Isn't it great? Isn't it great? I see you running around here with your watering can, but I will play you a hand in the promised land. I'll play you a hand in your promised land.
It's rotten, baby.
From Louisville, Kentucky, that was Wombo with Situations off their 2021 EP Quiche Mountain. Pausable Deniability is a monthly podcast I co-host with my pal David Miller, which you can follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Pause Deny. We post new episodes on the first day of every month. Here's Philadelphia's Hop Along from 2015's Painted Shut. This is The Knock.
8:45 a.m. The dream just escaped me again. Over breakfast I could hear you in the garage, building in shapes. I know that knock. Come on, I just put on the coffee. I know that knock. They wanna come inside and speak with me. At the door came the knocker.
You got money?
65.
Sheesh. I never worked for so little, except once, and that was a very noble cause.
This is noble, sir. His wife is crippled. Children are on the brink of starvation.
You a rotten liar.
I need him to help avenge my father. Murdered these 20 years.
Your first story was better. Where's that bellows crab? He probably owes you money, huh? Well, I'll ask him.
His daddy can't talk.
Look who knows so much, huh? Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead. There's a big difference between mostly dead and all dead. Mostly dead is slightly alive. All dead, well, with all dead, there's usually only one thing that you can do.
What's that?
Go through his clothes and look for loose change.
They're gonna drink our spirits. They're gonna eat our bones. Rumors and false opinions, they may lay me low. If I know what more or less happened, everyone more or less knows. Here in town, I'm running out of room from my toes. Will you give me yours? Give me yours. Give me yours. Will you give me yours? Give me yours. Give me yours. If I know what more or less matters, and everyone more or less knows, but here in town I'm running out of room for my ghost. Oh. Will you give me yours? And the world will keep you close. Give me yours. Will you give me yours? And the world will keep you close. You're invited to another world. You've arrived at the other world. Come inside another world. You're invited to another world. You've arrived at the other world. Come inside another
From San Francisco, that was Tim Cohen. Off his brand new 2021 album, You Are Still Here, that was Give Me Yours. Campfire Songs is a podcast where I get together with my buddies Todd, Jim, and Tom to share and discuss songs with each other. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Songs Campfire and give us a listen for more great music. And don't forget to stick around for the end of the show, when we'll be joined in the Groovin' After Party by our special guests Holly Cantos and Dave Sloan from the What Difference Does It Make podcast. From Taylor, Texas, right outside of Austin, here's Erie Family from their 2019 self-titled debut album. This is Everybody Disappear.
Stereo is proud to announce that Kenwood car stereo components are at Dalworth right now. That's right, at Dalworth's giant Pioneer Kenwood sale this week and this week only. You'll find Kenwood and Pioneer car stereos at 10, 20, 40, up to 50% off. You heard it right, up to 50% off on Pioneer and Kenwood, the class acts of mobile stereo. And they're on sale this week at Dalworth CB&C Car Stereo. Check out the incomparable Pioneer TS695 bridgeless three-way speaker with 20-ounce magnets. Regularly $159.95. Right now at Dalworth, $69 a pair. That's over 50% off Pioneer speakers for your car. Or the KP1500 in-dash AM/FM cassette deck from Pioneer. Pick it up for a ridiculous $59 with speaker and installation purchase. Kenwood and Pioneer at Dalworth now. Locations all over the Metroplex. Hurry into the Dalworth CB&C Car Stereo store near you this week for the giant Pioneer Kenwood sale going on now.
Understand
That was New York City's Skull Practitioners off their 2019 Death By EP. That was The Beacon. If you want to listen to all this great music without having to hear me ramble between songs, be sure to check out our Bend and Scoop Spotify playlist. If we played it and they have it, you can listen to it there. And if you enjoy listening to what we do here on Bend and Scoop, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you really enjoy what we do here at Bend and Scoop and would like to show your support, please feel free to drop a little something in our virtual tip jar at patreon.com/bendscoop. Tune in to Bend and Scoop each week and allow your ears to be rescued from a horrible fate, just like the Princess Bride.
Grandfather's here.
Can't you tell me I'm sick? He'll pinch my cheek. I hate that.
Maybe he won't.
Hey, how was this sickie? Huh? I brought you a special present.
What is it?
It was the book my father used to read to me when I was sick, and I used to read it to your father. And today, I'm going to read it to you.
It was a time when life didn't seem so complicated.
Marriage is what brings us together today.
What?
What?
I'm killing myself once we reach the honeymoon suite.
Wouldn't that be nice?
A courtly age of gentle conversation.
I will always come for you.
But how can you be sure?
This is true love.
Oh no. Is this a kissing book?
No. Actually, there was a lot of treachery, peril, and revenge.
Prepare to die.
Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
There were affairs of state.
But I've got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wedding to arrange, my wife to murder, and Gilda to frame for it. I'm swamped.
And affairs of the heart.
My Wesley will always come for me.
Your Wesley is dead.
I've seen worse.
Bye-bye, boy.
Have fun storming the castle.
It's more than turning. What's the difference? We've got him.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle. Goodbye.
It's a story of love. A tale of adventure. It's as real as the feelings you feel.
We're kissing again.
Someday you may not mind so much.
The Princess Bride. Not just your basic, average, everyday, ordinary, run-of-the-mill, ho-hum fairy tale.
So I was watching The Princess Bride, and my girlfriend came over and said, let's take a drive. And I said, are you crazy? I don't do anything else when I'm watching The Princess Bride. It's this and it's this, okay? My girlfriend cozied up next to me. She sat down and she tried to take my mind off The Princess Bride. She thought she would distract me. It didn't work. I was all focused on the movie. When we first got together, that's what she loved about me. She said, I've never met anybody who's as passionate about anything as you are about The Princess Bride. I like that. But I was watching The Princess Bride when she said that to me, so I didn't really pay that much attention. She told it to me later, and I said, what's your point? You said you like when I watch The Princess Bride, and that's what I do. And now you're complaining that all I ever do is watch The Princess Bride, so I don't really understand your logic here. And we got into a big fight and she left, but I didn't know about it because I was watching The Princess Bride.
People listen to people. So listen, people.
Welcome to the Groovin' After Party. Come on in and pour yourself a cold one.
Joining me now for a groovin' after party here on Bend and Scoop is Holly Cantos and Dave Sloan from the What Difference Does It Make podcast. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having us on.
Hi. Good to see you.
So glad you're able to come on with us. Tell everybody a little bit about what difference does it make, including, hopefully, where the name came from. That's what I'm really curious about.
Dave, would you like me to start?
Holly is the explainer. I have a hard time with words. I don't know why I do a podcast because I trip over my words all the time. Holly is more effective. Go ahead.
Well, not all the time, but on occasion. What Difference Does It Make is the name of a Smith song. So to anyone who listens to our podcast, they would recognize it as that. And we just felt like it fit. So that is where the name comes from.
That's also that's our philosophy.
Exactly. Words to live by. And we are an 80s music podcast. We focus, Dave and I both grew up on the music of KROQ, which is the alternative radio station in Los Angeles, the premier radio station. We grew up listening to it in the 80s and we love the music, have a passion for it. So we decided to do a podcast based on the music. We do a variety. We've sort of branched out since we first started. We were basing our shows on the K-Rock. We were looking at the K-Rock year-end chart year by year. So we started with 1980 and we broke down the top 100 songs into 10 section chunks. And we would just kind of, analyze them and, give our opinions on them. And then as time went by, we've been doing this for a few years. As time went by, we had guests come into the studio and do with us, talk about the music with us, people we know from the radio business or the music business or journalists, really anybody interested in the 80s music scene. And we've since, we have guests now pretty much every week. When we're not counting down K-Rock, we do a lot of interviews with artists, with journalists. We had Miles Copeland on last week, for example. We've had Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet. And those are straight ahead interviews. And so that is the gist of our podcast, Dave. Would you like to add anything? I'll allow you to speak now.
I think she covered it. It's just kind of fun to look back. We've used it as both a way to look at songs that we grew up on, these because a lot of songs that were played back in the 80s on this radio station KROQ, no one plays these songs anymore. They're like lost classics that time has forgotten. So we kind of dig those up, and that's kind of fun. And then when the pandemic occurred, we're like, oh, people are home, and maybe they want to talk. So we've reached out to a lot of people. It's been great talking to so many people that we respect.
Yeah, I was going to say the guest list that you guys have had has just been amazing. And I'm glad you mentioned Miles Copeland because that was the first one. Well, I guess the second one of y'all's episodes I listened to. I immediately went to the 1984 episode because that's the year I graduated high school. So I was like, all right, 84, I'm right there for that one. But yeah, Miles Copeland, man, that was great. And I could not believe, I went back, I was curious. I'm like, God, he sounds so great, but what how old he is. And I looked, I was like, man, he was almost like my dad's age. He's born in the 40s. Like he sounds so young and vibrant and still even with it. But yeah, I love those stories. And IRS, man, that's what a powerhouse that was.
Exactly. So you grew up on it too. We, as we said in the podcast, we listened to anything that came off the IRS label.
Yeah, for sure. And, REM obviously was the biggest example, but he mentioned, and there's artists you kind of remember, but you forget were on IRS like Timbuk 3 and Wall of Voodoo and some of those other ones too. Yeah.
Yeah. And you should definitely, we recommend Miles' book because it was a treat to read about the artists and his perspective.
Yeah. I immediately went to Amazon because I didn't realize he had a book out and I was like, okay, I definitely got to go get and check that out. And then the KROQ countdowns, I listened to the first one, 1980, because there was in the show notes you guys mentioned about why does Holly hate Devo? And I love Devo. So I was like, I want to hear what's going on. I think Dave was just kind of having fun with you on that. But, speaking of KROQ, have you guys ever reached out to try and have Rodney Bingenheimer on? Because he's kind of like, the big figure from the years of KROQ. And I saw that documentary of his, was it Mayor of the Sunset Strip? So he's just an interesting guy, unusual guy.
Yeah, we actually had Freddie Snakeskin on our show. He was the PD, the program director during those days. Yeah. So he was, that was actually, I think our first interview. We got to talk to Freddie. funny. But yeah, I think on a national level that Rodney's well known. You could always, and we could just, I think if Holly wanted and I wanted to, we could just go down to Cantos and just stop by in the booth that he's always in. He's a man who likes his way of life. He will after every show he will go to Cantos. It used to be Denny's on Sunset, and then it was it was a number of different places, but currently it's where Cantos is his hangout, which I'm sure it has been since he started 60. But yeah, he is a character, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, the rock and roll Denny's you're talking about, I think now is a Mel's Diner.
Oh wow.
Yeah. We also talked to Richard Blade from K-Rock. So,
nice.
K-Rock, who's also on Sirius XM now. So, yeah, we can make a run through the KROQ personalities.
Yeah, we're going down the line. We got Mark Goodman from MTV. We talked with him.
Awesome.
So, yeah, Martha Quinn won't return my calls. So,
Oh man.
We'll get her eventually.
Yeah. Persistence. That era of radio also, because I'm late 70s, early 80s, especially. And so I really kind of draw on that. And that's kind of what I do with the music portion of the podcast is I pull jingles and concert promos and things from that era and kind of, the anachronism of melding those with like 2010 to 20 indie rock. It's like kind of a weird, this is the stuff I listen to today if I heard it on the radio when I was a teenager. And the whole objective of it really is to try to get my friends who are my age or maybe 5 to 10 years younger to stop, listening just on repeat to the classic rock loop. They're kind of like anything past 2000, but the 80s, that stuff, the stuff you guys talk about is great. I love that era. So I'm glad you guys are keeping that fire going.
We're trying.
Thank you. You're playing some good stuff too. So hopefully you're opening their minds to the whole indie genre.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. I'm really trying to find, obscure, artists and thank God for Spotify and their algorithms. I'm finding stuff just in drilling down, and the more stuff I add to the playlist, the more random stuff that comes up that I've never heard of before. And it's like bands that you go on their Twitter account and they've got 100 followers. I'm like, yes, that's who I want people to hear, these bands. So for sure. All right. So let's learn a little bit more about each of your own personal musical journeys. And we're going to play around with something we like to call, is that your vinyl answer? And we'll start off, Holly, let's start with you first. What do you remember being the first record you ever bought with your own money back when you were a kid?
It's funny you should ask. Well, sort of funny. Dave and I, we also like to ask our guests this question because it's always fun to hear. I've said this one a couple of times, possibly on our podcast, and I can't remember. I remember this as being the first album I ever chose by myself, but I have a hard time believing that I bought it because I was only 7 years old, and it was Donny Osmond Superstar.
Ah, nice.
But the albums that I remember really buying with my own money in the late 70s were more classic rock, like Boston and Queen, those kinds of things.
Yeah,
bands.
For sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Dave?
I actually remember going down to Licorice Pizza. I don't know if you're familiar with Licorice Pizza. It's Licorice was a record store. I'm sure they were just in Southern California. Holly, do you know if they were anywhere else?
I only knew of the one or two in Southern California. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So we had this Licorice Pizza. They did these radio spots. It was this woman named Leslie that always talked about what was on sale at the time. And we were just kids like, Leslie, she's cute, right? She's got to be cute, right? Listen to her. She's got to be this is, we're in there 12, 13 years old. But she was, that was like almost a radio personality because it was always her on the radio talking about whatever's on sale in a super cool voice. I loved it so much. But there was a Licorice Pizza that I went to, and I think it was in 1979 with my bar mitzvah money. I got this record.
Ah, yes. Get the Knack.
Yeah.
I had the My Sharona 45. Which was not suitable viewing for
spectacular. Oh my God.
Yes. Forgot the bra that day, apparently.
Much like Phoebe Cates. I do, like, someone will say Phoebe Cates or someone will say My Sharona 45, and I'll just go there and like, oh.
Yeah, those were the
Hi,
days.
Brad.
Yeah, that kind of situation.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Doesn't anybody knock anymore? Is the question
Right.
we gotta ask ourselves there. So it's funny, Dave, you answered the second question already by holding that up. You showed that you still have it. And you talked about Licorice Pizza, which, by the way, that's a great name for a record store.
Right. Yeah.
I really love that. Sticking with you real quick, Dave, who do you own the most albums by, and which of theirs is your favorite?
Well, as I've mentioned on the podcast, back in the day, I listened to AM radio, and they had radio contests. And one of them, one weekend, was you can win the entire collection of any artist that you want. And I won, and I selected, much to my dad desperately wanted me to say the Beatles, but I said the Rolling Stones because they had more records. So I got all the Stones records up to Emotional Rescue. And so it's an easy answer for me. I've got them all. But it was a great learning curve for me as a like 13, 14 years old to have the Stones collection. And now, I know most of the, all their songs now because I played that, constantly on an endless loop.
Well, that was a great choice, first of all. I love the Beatles, but if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably rather listen to the Stones on an ongoing basis. Now, which of those records is your favorite?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think Exile on Main Street is still my favorite.
That's a really good choice.
It's it's down and dirty. I don't know. Even as a kid, I was like, this sounds forbidden, and like I shouldn't be listening to this, or there's more going on that I can comprehend. And still, even to this day, same thing. Like, wow, there's I mean, you like look at the documentaries on Exile, like, yeah, those were some dark times for the Stones.
Oh, yeah.
And yet they put out this brilliant record. Crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I read the Keith Richards autobiography earlier about a year ago. And first off, I can't believe how good his memory is to remember all the fine details from years ago. I'm like, I thought he had fried his brain. No, he knows everything. He remembered everything. It was really interesting, really well written. Holly, how about you? Well, who do you own the most albums by?
As Dave knows, I can't answer a question with just one artist. I can't give you one answer to anything. I would say, and I didn't go back and count, U2 and The Cure.
Okay. And do you have a favorite album of it by each?
I do. You want me to pare it down to one again?
So are you going to give two for each?
Well, I'll tell. Yes, for U2, Joshua Tree it's a flawless album. I think all the way through. Even though I was a fan much earlier than Joshua Tree, I think it's my favorite album, and I love Rattle and Hum. And The Cure, I would say Head on the Door. I can give you just one. Head on the Door.
Yeah, U2 is interesting. I agree with you. Joshua Tree is probably quantitatively their best album, but for me, I think I always want to go back and listen to War more than anything else, just because that's when I first heard them. It's like that entry point where when you first discover a band, you love that album so much.
Yeah,
you're exactly right.
Yeah, that was the first U2 album I bought.
Yeah,
me too. That's what drew me in. That was 1983. That was the first time I saw them.
Yep.
And that's what drew me in. So I did buy War first, but I think an all around album, Joshua Tree.
Holly, is there a specific album by any artist that you've purchased more times than any other over the years?
That is a very interesting question. And do you mean like multiple of the same?
Exactly. It could be, like you could have, I used to have the cassette, then I bought the CD, then I bought the record, or there's a limited edition or an expanded edition that came out, or maybe something got broken or stolen. Just the one that you've had to buy or wanted to buy multiple times. Like for me, I would think it's probably either License to Ill by the Beastie Boys or Dark Side of the Moon. I think those are the two that I've probably bought more times than any other, but there's a lot of that could fall in that category. Who's next? I mean, there's so many, but
I think I guess there are a variety of reasons for that. And you're right. I wasn't even thinking in those terms. I probably would have to say The Cure. This is another one of my favorites, but as Dave and I have discussed, you can't always pick a greatest hits record for your favorite album. It's not fair.
Right.
But The Cure, I have the cassette and the album and probably CD of The Cure Standing on the Beach or Staring at the Sea, however you want to. It's both, has both names. I probably bought that in each format.
Okay. Dave, how about you?
Well, I guess it goes to REM because I bought the albums and then they, CDs come out and they have the expanded. I was fortunate in that I worked in radio for a little bit, so I got a lot of these Expanded sent to me. And so I held on, those are things that I held on to. And yeah, I treasure all of them. Although, I don't know, do you like B-sides or like instrumentals or things that aren't fully formed on your expanded list? Do you listen to those?
I do. I always give them a one listen initially. What I've gotten to at this point is on my iPhone, I have like this mega playlist where basically every album I have, just the songs that I like from that album are on my phone. So the phone is just no filler. It's like, so whenever a new edition like that comes out, I'm like, okay, I'll listen to these additional tracks and additional discs that have all this extra live tracks or studio outtakes. And every now and then there'll be something that's like, oh, I like that version actually better than the album version or whatever, and I'll put it on there. But most of it's pretty sparse. It's not the hit rate, the success rate on those is kind of low.
Yeah, it's rare. It's like the Beatles anthology. Do you ever go back to those albums, anthology 1, 2, and 3? Like, oh, I need to hear those records instead of
not so much. Not
yeah,
so much.
Right.
Yeah. And that's another reason why having those songs just kind of randomly all on that iPhone, they'll just kind of pop up when I'm driving in the car on shuffle. It's like I would never go back and pull that particular record out, maybe, but the song comes up and it's like, oh, it's nice to hear that every now and then.
Sure.
That's a really good idea.
It took a
really
long
good idea.
time. It took a long time because we're talking like over 10,000 songs. So yeah, it was like a multi-year project, and it's kind of still ongoing. But at least now I'm screening in advance. Like a new record comes out, I'm like, okay, I'm listening to it, but I'm also identifying what songs to put on the phone.
So does that mean you're not listening to it just for pure pleasure? That you're analyzing it as your?
That's a great point, and I keep having to remind myself I need to have time that I'm listening to music just for the enjoyment, because there is so much between the podcast and that it just almost like a screening and a work exercise, homework or something, more than it is just in listening to enjoy it. So there's various times, like sometimes if I'm just driving in the car and I just have the phone on shuffle, then yeah, that's pure enjoyment. But a lot of other times there's definitely screening going on.
Yeah.
Always working.
Yes. Always working. Holly, who do you know that has the biggest vinyl collection, and what size is yours?
Oh,
personal. We're getting a little personal, aren't we? Size doesn't matter. Right?
Yeah, size does not matter. Yes.
Well, that's a good thing, because my vinyl collection is not very big anymore, because back in the day when records became not a thing anymore, we sold most of ours, my husband and I.
I did the same thing when CDs came out. Got rid of them all. Never should have.
Oh, I feel okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. So my collection is pretty minimal. I have a friend who I met in the radio business. He was a radio producer. He's done a million other things, but his name is Scott Payton, and I think he has a full room at least of vinyl. So probably more. If he ever hears this, he'll probably kill me for saying it was only one room.
Now I'm guessing Dave probably has a pretty sizable collection, having been in radio and in the industry, probably with all the promotional items and stuff you've been able to get. Yes.
Yeah, it's a good size. But guy we had on our podcast, Mike Marone, you might know him from The Loft with Sirius XM. Yeah. He was the program director there. He's actually selling all his vinyl now if you want to buy stuff, but you can go on Discogs and find it. But his collection is just insane. So yeah, you ever want to get inspired.
Now, how many would you estimate do you have, Dave?
Oh, it's not huge for vinyl.
Yeah.
It's
a few hundred.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, let's just say a few hundred.
Okay,
we'll keep it at that.
All right. Dave, sticking with you, what would you say is your favorite mom and pop record store? I know we mentioned Licorice Pizza earlier. Is there any currently going that you enjoy popping in on?
Licorice Pizza is long gone. There's in Sherman Oaks, where I live down the valley, there's Freak Beat Records that I love going to. It's small, and during this pandemic, they would only allow 3 people in at once, so there was always a line to get in if you wanted to. It's always nice to go there. Freak Beat Records. They've got always great selection, and they have big sales. Occasionally, they have their once or twice a year, they have a sale on vinyl where their dollar selection is down to a quarter. So I always like going to and try to breezing through. A lot of it is maybe not worth a quarter. Sometimes I will even hold this up and going, do I want this? Like, oh, it's a quarter, and it's in my hand already. So
that really takes me back because when I was a kid, my dad would go to the record store, and this is like early 70s, and he wouldn't, being so young, he wouldn't want me to, wouldn't spend like money for a brand new record. I'd gotten a turntable, so he's like, okay, you can get something from the used section, and the used records were all a quarter. So I loaded up on the Grand Funk back catalog. That was like my first big quarter binge purchase. So yeah,
good investment.
Yeah, at the time it was great. I loved it.
I approve. Yeah.
Holly, is there a record store you enjoy frequenting or remember fondly?
Yes, I remember quite a few fondly, and Dave is going to have to jog my memory. When I was a kid, I shopped at also Licorice Pizza, Moby Disc. We had a great store called Moby Disc, and then the Warehouse and Music Plus were our chains, but there was also a Ticketmaster in the Warehouse, or I think it might have been a Music Plus. So a lot of time was spent there. There was my local stores now, Record Trader, Time Warp. Those are the ones near me. I don't go in often anymore, but the Record Collector. There was a one on Melrose that I used to go when we were in college. Was it Adams? Do you remember?
Aaron's
Records. Yes. I used to go there in college a lot. All my XTC records and yeah.
XTC. Yes. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Holly, what's your all-time favorite cover song?
I was trying to pare this down to the very last minute, like right before I got on this.
You don't have to limit yourself to just one. We've already established that. We're bending the rules for you.
Thank you. Okay. I'll say them fast so I don't take up so much of your time. But the first one that came to me, I love Duran Duran's cover of Fame, and any of their David Bowie covers I really enjoy. Erasure did a lot of ABBA songs, which I really like. Rush has done quite a few covers. Rush. They're not coming to me. They will come to me in a minute. Mark Ronson and Amy Winehouse did a cover of Valerie that is really great. And the Bay City Rollers, I Only Want to Be With You. Which was that Dusty Springfield.
Yeah.
And last, sorry, Dave, you're probably going to give one really good one. What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding, Elvis Costello, which was a Nick Lowe song.
Exactly. And for years, I didn't even know it was a cover until after it had been out.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, yeah.
Well, actually, as I mentioned, REM's my favorite band. I have a band called Superman. This is from Life's Rich Pageant.
Great song.
REM. But, well, there's a cover song. I didn't realize it was a cover song at the time, which is always fun. This was by a band called The Click from Dallas, I believe, or Houston, I think. Houston, Texas. So I still have this. However, I opened it up because, it's like 30 years old. You can't tell, but it is warped. It's just, it is.
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. It's been in it survived a lot, but it did not survive like being in my garage for a bit. I will never throw that away, but it still brings me great joy.
That's a great pick because that is a really good song. And I also, for a long, long time, didn't know it was a cover either, especially, an obscure artist like that. You didn't,
right.
At least with Nick Lowe, people heard of Nick Lowe, but The Click.
Yeah, right. And also, it was almost like a hidden song too. I remember on Live
Yes.
like the album was over and then maybe like 5 to 10 seconds of silence. And then all of a sudden this other song came on. It was kind of before CDs had hidden tracks. REM hidden track almost.
I was going to say they kind of were forerunners of that trend because in the 90s, the hidden track was all the rage. Yeah.
That was always the thing.
Well, guys.
That's all you got, Dave? That's it?
I pick one, Holly. I know you like to go just pick one. So yeah.
Okay, sorry. I blanked on the Rush songs, but it's A Heart Full of Soul and The Seeker is actually really, really good.
Oh, wow.
Rush did a cover album. Yeah. So definitely worth checking out. So, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the covers.
No problem. No problem. The Seeker is a great tune. I see you got your Simpsons Who poster in the background. I love my favorite show, my favorite band together again. Awesome.
Dave, you were like brothers separated at birth.
I think so, pretty much. I mean, I even have a sticker on the side of my car where it's basically the Who from The Simpsons, but Homer's in the air with the mop on his head doing the windmill guitar. Right. It's great. Guys, thanks so much for being on. What social media contact do you want to share as far as each of you and the show, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, Facebook?
Dave?
This is Holly's department. Holly is our social media person who thrives and drives our social media presence. So take it away, Holly.
Thank you. Well, so WDDIM podcast is our website. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WDDIM podcast. We have a YouTube channel. You just have to search for What Difference Does It Make podcast. We do lots of outtakes from every show. And Dave, have I missed anything? New episodes every Friday?
New episodes every Friday. Yeah, we've been pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Good.
I think that cover everything.
Yeah. And it's another thing we share.
Like and
this
subscribe.
podcast also does new episodes every Friday. So we're Friday buddies.
Friday always on my mind. Another Bowie cover song, right?
Yeah.
Friday I'm in love.
Yep.
Friday I'm in love.
Back to the Cure. Back to the Cure. Awesome.
Sure. You're an Arrested Development fan. You must be, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
'Cause I saw you had Bob's blog, and I'm like, okay, this guy better know that this Arrested Development
Bob Law's Bob Law blog. I can't even say it. Yeah.
Bob's Law blog.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
Well, there is always money on the banana stand. So
that's right. I've made a huge mistake.
I've said that to myself more than once since I started this podcast.
Yeah.
Just when I'm editing, especially.
Yeah.
I've made a huge mistake. Well, guys, God, this was really fun. I enjoyed this quite a bit, and y'all's show is great. Like I said, the episode I've already listened to 3. I'm going back and trying to catch up on some of the other episodes. But I love the guests that you have on, and the whole '80s focus, early '80s especially. I just love it. I love it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us on, and thank you for this was really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and folks, give them a listen. What difference does it make? Check it out. Great show, guys. We will see you again soon. Thanks for being on.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks, Bob.
Don't worry about it, guys. It's all in the mix.
Bye-bye, lard-ass.
Bend and Scoop is a production of Lukewarm Tallboy Studios.
We will return tomorrow morning with the sun.
Good evening, and have a good life.